pray. So please join with me, ladies and gentlemen of the house, in welcoming our chaplain of the day, Pastor Louie Giglio.
Well, thank you for the privilege of being here this morning. Speaker Ralston, thank you so much. To each one of you, Wes, thank you for that introduction. Wes and I go all the way back to youth group together, and you remember your youth group friends. It's amazing to see how God leads us on journeys in life. I don't think I would have ever imagined that Wes, when he was a middle schooler in our youth group growing up, was going to introduce me at the House of Representatives in the state of Georgia one morning in January of 2016. But God has an interesting way of accomplishing his purposes and plans for each one of us. Personal lives are complicated. Our professional lives are complicated. Some of you want to accomplish things in this session, but it literally is going to take an act of God, and that's not an overstatement. You're going to need people to see the truth. You're going to need people to come to their senses. You're going to need people to put down their own agenda. There's going to have to be a consensus where there is none. There's going to have to be a breakthrough where right now there's just a wall. And to accomplish professionally what you want to accomplish in this session, it's complicated. The city's complicated. The world is complicated. The political process is complicated. And so today, if we could simplify things, maybe that will encourage us all. And I'd like to simplify them in this way. I want to remind you today that God knows who you are. He doesn't need your name plate on the front of your seat or your name tag on your lapel to know you today. Because before time, he thought about you. And before the man and the woman who were responsible for your creation ever met, God had already designed you in full. And he knows everything about you from that moment until now. That can unnerve us because no one knows everything about you except God. But the more powerful reality today is that knowing everything about you, God intensely loves you. He doesn't love you because you have accomplished something, because you graduated, because you arrived. He loves you because you bear the image of the Almighty woven into the very being that you are. And he loves you powerfully, consistently, and he loves you based on his love, not on your performance. And thirdly, that God who created you and who loves you is for you today and not against you. I met a man recently, and in our conversation, it quickly turned to, so what do you do? And I hate it when people ask me that because good conversations go bad when people ask me that. You know what I'm talking about. A lot of people can't relate to that. They're like, well, what do you mean? You know, I work at the mall, you know, and everyone loves the person who works at the mall. No one loves pastors. And so eventually good conversations where we're enjoying life, we're talking about pleasant things, we have common interest. I sound like an educated, normal person to this friend who I've just met, and he's thinking, I like this guy. And he says, but so what do you do? And so I'm just like, oh, what do I do? And I do have 3 or 4 different things I do, so I try to lean toward one of those like you do. You know, you go to your other occupation before you go to, I'm a state representative. I'm a politician, that's what I am. They're like, well, I work for my family's business. Oh, great. That's wonderful. That's acceptable to work for your family's business as long as your family's not in the political business or you're not an attorney. No offense. But you attorneys, you got it easy. I wish I was an attorney. I said, I'm a pastor. And I mean, the conversation, we were laughing. We were talking about world cities. We traveled to several international destinations. We talked about restaurants. We talked about culture. We talked about politics. We covered the basis. I said, I'm a pastor. And he goes, what the, I can't say here, next word, kind of pastor are you? Because I had on jeans and I looked normal. And he said, wow. And that was it. That was the end right there. But before it disintegrated completely, I tried to recover on several levels. I tried to change the subject. I tried to talk about other things. He didn't want to have it. So I just, I don't know. It's hard for me. I don't believe in God. And when I was younger, that used to unnerve me. I would be like, oh my goodness, this person doesn't believe in God. Oh, what am I going to do? They don't believe in God. Plane lands in 46 minutes. How am I going to handle this? I got to get them saved, before we get to Cleveland. And I said, well, that's okay. That's all right. And he goes, what do you mean it's all right? You're a pastor, aren't you? I said, I am. Well, what do you mean it's all right that I don't believe in God? I said, well, it's not that important whether you believe in God. I said, I used to think that was the most important thing. I said, but from my point of view, what's most important is that God believes in you. And it's really not that important right now how you feel about God. What I came today was just to remind you about how he feels about you. And whether you believe in him is important, obviously, but it's not as important as the fact and the reality today that he believes in you. And the Almighty is on standby today, as staggering as that thought is, to help and assist you personally and professionally to be the person that he's designed you to be. And he certainly is on standby today to help us lead the people of the state of Georgia. Because that is what this is all about today. In such a way that the common good will touch the lives of all the people so that this state can become all that it can be. And so Micah said it this way. Many of you could quote the passage. But this is what he said today, and it's so encouraging for people who think God is stuck in a religious system with 1,000 rules and regulations. This is what the Almighty asks of us today. I'll close with this. He has showed you what is good and what the Lord requires of you. That's God's kindness. That he has showed you what is good, and he showed you what the Lord requires of you today and of me. Act justly. Love mercy. And walk humbly with your God. Let's pray.